Welcome to the Cashflow Ninja, the podcast sharing how to create and grow income streams and manage, multiply, and protect your wealth in the new economy. Are you tired of trading your time for money? Do you desire freedom today instead of retirement in 10, 20, or 30 years? I'm MC Laubscher, and this is the Cashflow Ninja. This is Cashflow Ninja. I'm MC Laubscher. Thank you so much for spending your most valuable resource, your time, with us once again on another episode. I've got a fantastic guest, Jordan Harbinger. He is an entrepreneur par excellence. He's got the very, very highly rated, one of the best podcasts on iTunes and across all of the different platforms, the Jordan Harbinger Show. He is an expert in networking and relationships as well, and I'm pretty excited to jump in with it into this conversation with him today. Jordan, fantastic to connect.
Hey, thanks for having me on. I appreciate the opportunity.
We've spoken on the show a lot about insurance, and having been through the last recession, one of the things that I realized was how powerful relationships are, and it's actually, in essence, insurance during really, really bad times. And I know that you've put out a lot of great content about it. We've shared how your mental capital times your relationship capital brings forth financial capital. So wanted to jump into a little bit of networking and relationships. But before that, let's go back to a little bit before all of this started happening and where it started to make sense and you started to get into it. Wall Street lawyer. You started the Art of Charm show. What made you interested in human beings? Because we're pretty strange creatures between you and I.
Yeah,
and relationships.
Sure. So at first I was actually really interested in none of these things. You know, I got a job. I went to law school because I couldn't get a job anywhere else. Like, it was a decent economy, but I remember going to Best Buy to apply. Best Buy is like an electronics store in the United States. And I applied for a job there after getting a 4-year degree from University of Michigan. And they were like, great, we're going to hire you. And I was like, great, I can build computers. You know, I would like to work in that, like, customer service or building computers. And they were like, well, you need a few years of experience before you can do that. And I was like, wait a minute. I've got a 4-year degree from Michigan. I can build computers, repair computers. I've been doing it for years. I've been, setting up home theater systems for people, home stereos, Xbox, whatever, home entertainment centers, and literally like building computers from parts. It's actually not that hard, as anyone who's done it knows, but certainly not something you would stick a kid doing. But I was like 24, 23 years old, and they're like, well, we need you to work in music, in the music section. And I'm like, my friend's little brother who's 16 years old works in the music section. Why am I starting at the same level as him? And it wasn't just ego. It was just like, I got to pay student loans. I need a better job than that. I have qualifications and experience, not just a degree. And they just didn't care. They were like, we need people in music. So I didn't take that job, and I went to law school instead. And it turned out to be a pretty good decision because I got into Michigan law, which at the time, and I think still is, one of the top 10 law schools in the United States. So I went there, got a job on Wall Street, which was slightly higher pay than working in the music section of Best Buy, and a more rewarding experience in many ways. But when I was in high school, I could show up to a geometry test. I'm no math whiz by any stretch, trust me. But I could show up to a geometry test, teach myself the geometry, before the teacher showed up to the room, get the test, figure it all out, do the test, done and done. But then I got to college and everybody was actually quite smart, and I no longer had that ability. So what I did was I decided to outwork everyone because I had one competitive advantage in high school and I had to choose a different one in college. But then when I got to Wall Street as an attorney, it was like, everyone is smart and everyone is also hardworking, working 7 days a week, 10, 12, 14, 16 hours a day, whatever it was. So I thought, this is a problem. I'm going to have a problem with this because I, again, have lost my competitive advantage. So what I did was I decided to find a new one. And at first, I had no clue how to do this. But I talked to one of the partners there who was never in the office. And I thought, okay, what I will do is I will try to work from home as much as possible. Because if I work from home, then it'll take them longer to figure out that I'm an idiot who doesn't belong here and fire me, basically was my strategy. You know, that they'll be like, oh, is this guy a dumb shit, or do we just not have enough FaceTime with him, you know, to know what he's really like? So I was like, if I hide enough, you know, then I won't get in trouble. And 2020 hindsight, this was imposter syndrome. This was me thinking like, I'm the guy that slipped through the cracks and doesn't belong here. Meanwhile, everybody at the law firm thought that. But I talked with one of the partners and I said, okay, how come you're never in the office, but you're a younger partner? You know, do you work from home? And I thought he's going to give me like the cheat code to working from home. And he said, what he said changed the way that I look at work forever, which was, I'm not necessarily working from home. Like, sure, there's some of that, but I'm really bringing in business to the law firm. So I don't worry about billable hours. I don't worry about that, because if I bring in a new $1 million deal every 3 months, every quarter, whatever, I get 5% of that. That's much more than my annual billable hourly bonus of whatever it was. So he just didn't worry about that. And I thought, this is genius. Not only is he working from home, which is probably a lot more chill, he gets paid more. And who's going to get fired in a down economy? Not the guy bringing in business, I'll tell you that. So I thought, okay, I need to learn how to bring in business. And when I asked him, he had zero actionable advice. You know, it was like, just be cool and like, you know, maintain your network and like network more and make sure you're connected with all the investment bankers, because those are our clients. And I'm like, make sure I'm connected with all the investment bankers? What are you talking about? Why? How would I do that? And I asked him specifics, and he's like, well, at Brooklyn Prep, where I went to school, half those guys became investment bankers. And I'm like, okay, so what do I do if I grew up in BF, Michigan, and I don't have 30 classmates that went on to work for Goldman and Deutsche Bank? Like, what do I do? You know, what do I do? And he just was like, I don't know. Good luck, bro. Be cool. See you later. I'm checking off my mentor to guy box for the summer internship. You know, that's how I got started.
Yeah, and this ties into like the perception, what people have, what networking is too.
Yeah.
And I love about how the world is changing so quickly, because I just see we're in the investment space. We do a lot of stuff there, and the whole way of doing business basically changed. Of let's get on the golf course and go knock some balls around and do business. Well, now everyone's got access to the internet and Zoom calls and do it. Networking has changed quite a bit too. Can you share a little bit about what it is, what it's not, and what it's become, and to effectively position a little bit?
Sure. So eventually, after I found out that I needed to quote unquote network, whatever that meant for the law firm game, I started to reverse engineer what networking was going to be. Because I thought of networking as like either something that older people do, like you work your way to the top, you get promoted enough, you get to the top, and then you like go to a country club or something, and all these people there are your network now, or like people you've worked with for years, they're your network. But the smartest people, they built their network while they were on the way up, and that network pulled them up, not making your way to the top somehow and then trying to network at that point. So I was like, I'm going to network later. I got to learn how to network later. This was like the awakening that I needed to be like, no, I got to network now. That's what's going to get me to the top and keep me there. So I started to deconstruct it, and I took a lot of networking classes like Dale Carnegie, learn how to network, whatever. And I eventually realized like the tips were not bad, but they weren't good. They were like, look them in the eye and have a firm handshake. Remember people's names. And I'm like, whoa. Okay, good. That's networking 101 or like networking 100 remedial. But if I'm not getting $1 million law deal every quarter from investment bankers that are my old friends, it's not because I didn't look them in the eye and have a firm handshake. It's like they didn't like me for some other reason. And I soon realized that the guy teaching networking classes, struggling to like make ends meet and like working at I'm not trying to belittle these people, but like legit, I was learning networking from a guy in a sweater vest at the YMCA on Tuesday nights at 8 p.m. So like, not really. This is not really like, this isn't going to work. You know, I'm not going to get the real deal. And the real deal is not going to come from the guys that I'm working with in Wall Street, because they don't know how to articulate it. So I realized, okay, I need to break this down into its component parts. Body language, nonverbal communication, maintaining relationships, building relationships, reaching out to people that don't know me, adding value to people that don't know me, getting in, the circle of trust, as it were. that kind of thing. That's tricky, and there's no like 3 simple steps to making sure you get a hold of influencers and making sure they like you. Like, it doesn't work like that. It's about consistency over time. So to your question, what is networking now? A lot of people think networking is like show up to some mixer, some event, have a crap load of business cards, hand them out, and then say, hey, when you're looking for to put your retirement funds to work, give me a call, like some financial manager with 3 months of experience. Or people will say, if you're looking to lose weight and gain energy, join my team of my multi-level marketing scam. Here's a card that I printed up on my printer at home, like that kind of thing. And I'm just like, no, thanks. I'm good. I'm going to pass on that. So I realized really quickly that you have to go to curated events if you go to events at all, like things where you are invited or you are doing the inviting, so that everybody there is a value giver, not a taker. There's not somebody who's trying to get you on their downline or trying to figure out how to get to somebody you know. You have to make sure that you are constantly giving without the expectation of return, so that you're adding value to the people in your network by introducing them to each other, helping them out with issues, and you're not keeping score by being like, okay, I helped MC out with this thing, now he owes me this other thing, because then you start to poison your relationships with people that maybe aren't able to reciprocate or don't think to, and then you're holding it against them. So there's a lot there, but networking is really the process of keeping and maintaining relationships, reaching out to new people to create relationships with them, and essentially treating people really well, like you would treat any other friend that you have. There's no like, I'm networking now, I got to be on, like that's not a thing. And people worry about that. Good people worry that networking is a dirty word now, because all the people that are terrible at networking, who are just transactional, that expect things in return, that offer you something, but it's just bait so they can ask you for something later. Those people have ruined networking for everyone as a word, as a concept. So what you have to, the first step to being able to network or create and maintain relationships is to ignore everything you know about networking or think you know about networking so far, and everything you hate about the idea of doing it, and realize that it's kind of like, I'm sure you've all had terrible food at a restaurant before, but we're not about to be like, that's it, I'm not going to restaurants anymore. You know, like we know that there are different types out there and there are varying qualities. Same thing goes for networking events and people that you meet at those events. That's why I recommend people don't ever go to a networking mixer that is just called a networking mixer. Don't ever go anywhere where it's open to everyone, because what you're going to get are the bottom feeders and the takers. Doesn't mean they're bad people. It just means they're probably never going to do anything for you because they're out for their own exclusively. So you have to be very careful about that. And you have to really be, the principle we use is called ABG, always be giving. I talk about it on the Jordan Harbinger show all the time. ABG, yep. Always be giving. And that is, think about how you can help people in your network that you're connected to, and don't think about what they can do for you, because you're just going to get disappointed 9 times out of 10 if people can't help you, won't help you, aren't able to help you, whatever it is. So stop thinking about that entirely. And once you stop thinking about what's in it for you and you're just helping a lot of other people, even if only 1% of those people help you back, it really doesn't matter. You know, you're still getting ROI, positive results for your efforts.
CAMAPLAN is one of the leaders for personalized tax-deferred and tax-free IRA planning. CAMAPLAN's team can assist you to take control of your retirement funds and financial future through self-directed investing. They offer support to clients throughout the entire process, from opening your first account to making your first purchase to self-managing your assets. CAMAPLAN works with a growing network of investment providers in all asset categories and offer free investor education through classes, events, and webinars with over 15 years of leadership in self-directed retirement investing. CAMAPLAN will help you unlock a convenient and safe way to manage your retirement investments and discover financial freedom beyond traditional investments, beyond Wall Street, and go from forever taxed to never taxed. Start to take control over your retirement funds and financial future today by visiting cashflowninja.com/CAMAPLAN. Yeah, I like that. There's a lot of great stuff here. The one thing is the exclusivity. So it's the secret game of there's a room that you want to get in. How do you get into that room? You know, it's the more exclusive one because the other stuff I've just found too that the mindsets are very much different with regards to, you know, certain networks where there's and by invitation only network. It's a different, it's quite frankly just a different world. And the other thing that I would also share too, and maybe you can add to this too, is, you know, helping people is just doing your research on them too. You know, what are they working on? What projects are involved in? Because I'm sure, you know, when somebody goes, you know, how can I help you? Now you're like, how can MC help me? It's like now I'm putting the onus back on you to figure out, you know, how I can help you. Again, selfish of me to ask you that. It's like, what is Jordan working on? What is coming up? What are some of the projects? What excites him? And if there's a show or a book or something like that, then I can be like, okay, let me see how I can position or try to bring value of some sort to him. Maybe any comments on that?
Yeah, I think I understand what you're saying. So we're trying to figure out what we can do for other people. And like you said, we're ignoring what we think they can do for us. Like that should not be part of your calculation. And people will go, but I need to get help sometime. I need to find out what's in it for me. That is, I understand this. And you're able to ask your network for help. And in fact, you should. But you should not base who you help or who you associate with based solely on what they can do for you, because you will always end up disappointed. And you'll end up, frankly, missing out on a lot of other opportunities, because a lot of the best opportunities that I've ever gotten have come through people where I thought, well, I'm going to do this thing with this person, but this isn't going to result in some kind of like big win for me. Why would it? This is another I'm trying to think of a real example. A real example that I use in some of my talks. It's an old one, but it still holds true. When I moved to LA a long time ago, I don't live in LA anymore, but when I moved there a long time ago, there was no Uber back then. I had a toothache and I walked around. I had no car and I walked around, and like taxi cabs were super expensive. And I was trying to find a dentist. I was calling dentists near me and they were like, we don't take new patients. You know, I can't help you. Go to the emergency room if you have a toothache. And I posted on Facebook, and some stranger was like, my aunt is a dentist in your area. If you want to go ahead and try and get your tooth handled there, I'll call her. She's willing to open up early for you. I already told her, like, I love your show, whatever. I was like, great. So the next day I got up early and went to the dentist and got my tooth taken care of. And I didn't get overcharged, and it was great. I could function again, because when you have a toothache, it's like horrible and the pain doesn't go away. You're popping Tylenol like Tic Tacs. So I got that taken care of, luckily. And then he said, hey, you know, by the way, I'm looking for opportunities to become a graphic designer. Right now I work at this coffee shop. And I thought, okay, whatever. I don't have any graphic design needs, but I'll keep my ear out for you. And a few days later, a friend of mine was like, oh man, who does your website? Mine needs a facelift, and my clients need a facelift. And like the designer I had is so flaky and blah, blah, blah. And I said, look, I don't have a designer that I can give you, because we had one in-house at the time that they weren't available. I don't have a designer I can give you, but I have a connection who is hungry because he works at a coffee shop, and here's his portfolio. Let me know what you think. And she's like, I'm kind of desperate right now, and if you say this is a nice guy, I'm just going to take him for a test drive. So this guy ends up winning the opportunity, and he got a job as a full-time graphic design and web designer for my friend who was making websites for clients at the time. And that job was like 80 grand a year or 70 grand a year. And at the time he was working at like a coffee shop making frickin' lattes. Not there's anything wrong with that, but it sure as shit isn't graphic design. So that was an impressive thing, because I've never met this guy. And so I essentially got him a job for probably 3 times the pay, or to at the very least twice the pay he was making before, in the field that he wanted to get into, within a few weeks of him connecting with me. Never met me. I'd never met him. I still have never met him. And he helped me find a dentist on Facebook. But if he had been making the calculation, I could help Jordan get this dentist, but what's in it for me? Do I think he can get me a job? Well, I have no evidence he can get me a job, so I'm just not going to help him. He would never have gotten the job. And likewise, I couldn't have gone, I will trade a full-time job as a graphic designer with a friend of mine's company for anybody that finds me a dentist on Facebook within, biking distance. I mean, that's not realistic. So you have to, most of your opportunities are over the horizon. You can't see them. And the only time that they pop on your radar is when you go out of your way to help people that you normally don't think can help or do anything for you. And I get show guests for the Jordan Harbinger show. I've like billionaire investors and star athletes. We had Kobe Bryant on the show, and I got Kobe Bryant on my show last year in 2019 because I had been asking a friend of mine for guests and could he help with guests, and he was like, no, I can't really do anything. And then this person reached out and said, actually, I've got this other person I've been trying to book forever, and can you help me? And I said, actually, they'd be perfect fit for this show, this other show, and this other show. And I made intros there. And he said, thanks so much. I really appreciate it. I said, no problem. Anytime you have somebody who's a fit for the Jordan Harbinger show, just let me know. No big deal. Have a good week. The next week he says, hey, I don't suppose you'd want Kobe Bryant on your show. And I was like, of course I would. Absolutely. And he goes, oh, okay, I just didn't know because, normally you have scientists on the show. So I got Kobe Bryant that way. I didn't get Kobe Bryant because I schmoozed. I didn't get Kobe Bryant because I paid somebody to go out and book them. I got Kobe Bryant because I helped this random person book a comedian on another comedy show via an introduction that I had that I wasn't going to. And so the comedy show host was stoked because he got a guest, and this agent was stoked because he got his client on a show, this publicist, I should say. And I was beyond stoked because the residual from that was somebody saying, Jordan, I owe you one. How about Kobe Bryant? Which was like, that's like saying, I mean, imagine somebody says, I owe you one. Here's a guest you could never book in a million years most of the time, and you get to sit down with him for an hour anytime you want. Like that to me was just mind-blowing. Does that happen every time? Of course not. But if you're saying what's in it for me, you're never going to find the 1 in 100 or the 1 in 50 times that it just blows you away what comes back at you. So this isn't like some baloney sort of like law of attraction, what you put into the universe. Like this is a very real tactical numbers game where you are playing probability. And so whatever way you want to look at it, if you want to say you're putting good energy into the world, fine. I don't really go that route with it, but you are playing a numbers game where you are simply helping as many people as possible. You're building up a lot of referral currency and relationship currency, and eventually some of it will come back to you because most people are decent and want to help people that help them. It's really simple. It's just that most of us shoot ourselves in the foot because we start to look for the immediate return on our investment when really we shouldn't be looking for that at all because we're playing with house money. It doesn't cost me anything to make an introduction between a comedy podcast and a guy who's booking comedians. It doesn't cost me anything to introduce my random Facebook friend who got me a dentist to my friend who needs somebody to get a job. But if I'm only thinking about what's in it for me, all of those opportunities cease to exist. They never come to fruition ever.
Yeah, and it's the long game and playing the long game and having a long-term view on things. How do you systematize this and bring this all together? Because this is like it's almost a relationship development exercise, right? And you get better and better of it the more that you work out. So how do you systematize this?
So I systematize this, and that's a good question because you have to systematize this or it simply will not happen. Because one thing I run into a lot, I teach, of course, networking at Google, the Central Intelligence Agency, Secret Service, Facebook, wherever it is, and relationship development. We don't call it networking, but I teach relationship development there. And what's funny is I'll tell somebody who works for an intelligence agency that relationship development requires, A, B, C, D, E, and they're furiously taking notes and they're like, this is really good. But then I'll tell some like recent college grad about these techniques and they go, yeah, I kind of already do that naturally. Or some sales guy who's like sort of mid-level will be like, I kind of do that naturally. And I'm like, do you kind of do it naturally, or do you just think you're doing some of it like 1%, therefore you're going to write off everything I'm telling you? And I hear that all the time. And I find it, I think it's really funny in a way, sort of a sad funny, because the most successful people who I teach this to are like, this is really good systems. These are really good techniques. And the people that I know are never going to take action are the ones that look, you should never, when you hear advice from somebody, you should never look at the pieces that you think you already know. That is a surefire way to never get better, or at least not get better that quickly. You know, I'll be on LinkedIn and I'll be like, hey, how's 6-minute networking going? Our networking course, which is free at jordanharbinger.com/course. I'll be like, how's it going for you? People will go, oh, well, I've just always done a lot of that naturally. And I'm thinking, yeah, but you just asked me how you can jump from one career to another or one industry to another. If you're doing this naturally, you have an opportunity coming out of your wazoo right now. You're deciding between all kinds of opportunities. You're not like, oh, how do I reach out to this person? If you do this stuff naturally, you don't have this problem. And so I notice a lot of people will say, well, I kind of already do that. I've never met anyone who does this, all these systems, outside of people that I've taught, other than a handful of elite level intelligence agents and some super awesome sales guys and people that have like written books about networking, like Keith Ferrazzi or something like that. Like those guys will go, yeah, I've got a good system for this. Everybody else, I think, is just talking out of their ass. If you pardon my phrase here. If you look for what you already know, that is a surefire way to just plug your ears and close your mind up to what you're about to learn. So anyway, that aside, you do need to systemize this. Every day when I wake up, I do a drill. This is the first drill, or one of the first drills in 6-minute networking. I do Connect 4. So I go on my phone, I scroll all the way to the bottom of my text messages. That's where those old text threads are. The ones that are like, they say things along the lines of like, hey, let's meet at Cafe Gratitude at 12:30. And it's like a number you didn't save or something like that. And you find that a lot of people in those threads, you didn't save their number. You haven't talked to them in 3 years, whatever it is. Reach out and re-engage those people. Send them a text. The script is in the 6-minute networking course, but send them a text that re-engages them, compels a response, and you'll find that like 3 out of 4 of those people will reply. Now, you're not trying to get anything from them. You're just trying to get an update on what's going on. If you stay top of mind, so if you do this with 4 people every day, 5 days a week, take weekends off, that's 20 people a week, and that's 80 people a month. Now, let's say that only half, let's say 40 of them reply to you. Okay, so now you're re-engaging and talking to hundreds of people, new people that have fallen off your radar, maybe not brand new, but like new that you'd otherwise not talk to. These are your weak and dormant network ties. You're talking to that many of those people every month, every year. Now you're top of mind with them too. So you might have a few text exchanges back and forth, and somebody might be like, oh, I'm between opportunities. Oh, I'm looking for this. Oh, do you have a web designer? Oh, do you have a virtual assistant? Oh, do you have a show booker that I can use? Do you have what systems are you using for calendars, email, whatever? So you get a little knowledge share. But then a few months into this, or even a few weeks into this, you'll get people texting you and saying, hey, Jordan, out of the blue, I know we just talked a few weeks ago, but I was wondering, do you do speaking engagements? Because we need a keynote for our annual sales meeting. Great. Yeah, I'll take that gig. So now I just got a 5-figure sales speech or keynote, whatever, for some gig, right? I got some gig out of it. Or someone goes, hey, I don't know if this would interest you, but my friend's uncle was like a jewel thief in the 80s, and now he's written a book and he's telling everybody about it. And I'm like, that sounds super interesting. Yeah, I'd love to have that guy on the Jordan Harbinger show. Those people would never reach out to me if I hadn't been in their peripheral vision, so to speak, of their brain. Like, they're like, okay, who would like this? Oh, that Jordan guy that texted me a few weeks ago that I totally forgot existed 4 years prior, 3 years prior. So you're playing the numbers game of being in people's orbit, being in their radar, having people reach out to you. That's extremely important and can't really be rated too highly. And the thing is, or overrated, I should say, and it's remarkably easy to do.
We are living through unprecedented times, and many experts say that in the coming months and years, we're about to see some of the best real estate opportunities of our lifetime. Who's going to benefit the most from these opportunities? Those with access to capital, which is where the Real Estate Accelerator comes in. Brought to you by Good Egg Investments, the Real Estate Accelerator is an online course and mastermind that will give you everything you need to raise private capital for real estate syndications. Through building a killer brand that attracts the right investors, you'll be able to take advantage of the upcoming opportunities and scale your business. To learn more, check out cashflowninja.com /good egg.
All I'm doing is spending 5 minutes texting these people every day. This is time you'd waste on Instagram. It's time you'd waste surfing through your freaking Gmail. It's time you'd waste looking at crap on YouTube. You're not like spending an hour a day, quote unquote, networking. You are literally just re-engaging people that are already on your phone. And that's one way that I systemize this. I also have a personal CRM that I use. I actually made it. I didn't personally make it. My team did. It's called Connection Fox, connectionfox.com. It's free right now. You can enter your contacts in there, and you say like, okay, I want to talk to this person every month. I want to talk to this person every 6 months. And it will show you when the last time you interacted with that person is. You input your interactions with them as needed on your phone or on the computer, and you can use it as like a searchable sort of Rolodex where you go, okay, who do I know that like is into cars? You could tag people with cars. You can tag people with what you talked about last time. Take notes on your conversations with them, that kind of thing. That way, when you reach out to somebody, you're like, oh, okay, MC Lab, sure. What did we talk about? Oh, right, I was on Cashflow Ninja. That was July something something. Okay, that makes sense. Great. And then I'm not like, who the hell is this in 6 months when I go to look in there and you're tagged as, cat lover or whatever the hell I've got you tagged as. So you have to manage this. This is where people get lazy, and this is where when people go, well, I kind of naturally do that. I'm like, you kind of naturally have a personal CRM that you built on your computer that's mobile friendly. You kind of naturally reach out to weak and dormant network ties in a fully systemized way every day. Do tell. What these people mean when they say I kind of naturally do that is I'm not shy, which is great, but means jack all when it comes to creating a robust and active network.
Right. And I think the other thing too, and by the way, that course is fantastic for anyone that want to check it out. I checked it out. I've been through the lessons. It's really, really good stuff in there. But it's also, when you compare it to where people are spending their time, and you mentioned that they would sit around and on social media and like and comment, and it's dopamine. But this is actually, more now. You have a number, which is a little bit different than just commenting on someone's Facebook page or whatever social media profile, and you're actually engaging and really building potentially a great relationship through connecting that way.
Yeah, there's more to it. So a lot of people will be like, oh, I kind of naturally do this because I click like on people's crap on Facebook, or like, oh, I send comments to them. This is not the same thing. When you text someone, you're in the sort of, I don't want to say intimate circle because it sounds a little weird, but like you're in like an intimate circle. Like people who have my phone number that text me, these are generally friends, or I consider them friends. So if somebody texts me, I'm like, oh, okay, I knew them well enough to give them my phone number. If you click like on a photo that I have, I will never notice. If you comment on something, and you'd have to do it 100 times, and then maybe I'll be like, oh, you're cat lover 647 on Instagram, like whatever. I'm not going to notice that, and busy people aren't going to notice that either. That's what I call below the fold, right? Like that's the banner ad that you have to scroll down to see. No one's going to do that. But a text message, we know from marketing data that something like 100% of text messages are read within like 24 hours or 10 minutes or whatever the stat is, even if it's 24 hours and not 10 minutes. That's great. Almost 100%. Email open rates that are good are what, like 15, 18%, something like that. So yeah. I don't care if I email people once a year on Christmas. Great. You have a freaking 18% open rate if you're lucky, and you're getting drowned out by 500 other people doing it. How many people are sending texts on a random Thursday morning at 10 a.m.? 0. You're the only one. So you have to put in the extra effort. Don't rationalize that you already kind of sort of maybe do this. That's a loser mentality. It really is.
Yeah, and there's a science to this, and maybe you want to speak to that too, because this is some of the strategies that you teach at intelligence agencies. There's a strategy of building and taking relationships to a next level, and I'm sure if you're involved with intelligence, it's getting to a level where somebody's going to give you the codes to something, right, or classified information.
Yeah, I mean, usually intelligence agents aren't like, I tricked this person into giving me the safe combination. Usually it's, I just need to be cozy enough with this person that if they're thinking about giving me something, they know they can trust me with it. Or I just need to be in good enough rapport with this person that I can make an offer and they're not going to like run away from me or, you know, blow me up, whatever it is. Fundamentally, there's no difference between networking and making or meeting friends. And that's the mindset you need to change the image in your head of networking, which originally for me and for a lot of other people, like I said before, is a dirty word. So I would say there is some sort of like nonverbal communication and persuasion secrets and tactics, but you don't need any of those, and you shouldn't even think about those in the beginning. What you really need to do is the beginning drills. Try that Connect 4 where you're texting people, 4 people a day, every day, 5 days a week. Do it for like a week. See what happens. You're going to see a certain type of response rate. You're going to see a certain type of opportunity come back. I get a lot of emails now that are like, thank God I did this. I got laid off during the COVID-19 thing, and now I got a job right away because of my network. Thank you. This is amazing. You have to dig the well before you get thirsty. A lot of people go, I'll network when I need to. You know, I don't really need it right now. Things are kind of cooking. Cool. Don't call me when the crap hits the fan. I don't want to hear from you when you need something. I want to hear from my friends when they don't need anything. And that's where the next exercise, Layoff Lifelines, comes in. Because you need to imagine if you got laid off from your job today or you lost your business, who are the 10 or 15 people you would contact to solicit their advice on what to do next? These are your important and dormant ties, where the other one is your weaker dormant ties, the texting. These are your important dormant ties. This is like your old career counselor, your old boss, your friend's dad who runs a successful company that you grew up with, et cetera, et cetera. You know, like your mentor at your old job, stuff like that. Make that list now and then reach out now while you don't have an agenda, because you don't need anything specifically. You can reach out to them, and then when they're like, what do you want? You can be like, hey, man, I've just done a crap job of keeping in touch the past 10 years. I'm going through my network of people that are important to me, and I'm reaching out to check in. I don't need anything. I hope you're doing great. The latest on me is I've got a kid, and here's a picture of him. Then they go, oh, okay, that was cool. I still think Jordan might want something, but this is cool. Then 3, 6, 9 months later, whatever it is, I reach out again with another update to see what's going on with them. You know, 3 months later, I reach out again. Then in 2 years, if my business falls apart, I reach out to them and they don't go, oh, aha, you were just buttering me up the last 18 months. They're not going to think that, but they will think that if I reach out and I go, hey, MC, what's up, man? We should get lunch sometime. And you're like, And then we got to lunch and I'm like, I'm broke and I need a job. You're like, I knew it. I hate this guy. Jordan's such a leech. You have to dig the well before you get thirsty. The people who go, oh, networking is awkward. It's awkward when you screwed up because you didn't dig the well before you're thirsty. Yeah, you should feel awkward reaching out to somebody you haven't talked to in 5 years, 3 years and going, I have a book now. Can you promote it? Go fly a kite. Where were you when I needed anything? Where were you when you didn't need to promote your crappy ass book? No, don't call me for that. Reach out before you need something. Nobody feels weird reaching out to their friend and saying, hey, guy that I've talked to every 4 months for 2 years, I've got a book. Would you be interested in sharing it with your audience? That's not weird or awkward at all. Yeah. It's weird when you don't earn it. It's weird when you don't deserve it. So you've got to make this list. Reach out now when you don't have an agenda. It's less awkward because you're agenda free, and it kicks the rust off. It gets you some momentum, and it ends the cycle of procrastination. You know, I've got 100 things to do. Networking, it's kind of a black box. I don't really know what to do. You don't have that excuse anymore. Now you have this exact drill to run. This is the one area, networking and relationships, it's the one area of your life and business where you cannot make up for lost time. By the time you need it, you're just too late. And I have very little sympathy for people that reach out when they need something and then go, I didn't dig the well before I was thirsty and now I got laid off. What's the secret tactic to moving forward? I get this email like every week. What's the secret tactic to really throwing gasoline on the fire? And I go, sorry, it's the exact same structure as before. Slowly reach out to everybody, make the list, do the Connect 4. And you can try to accelerate it by asking people for things early, but don't be surprised when you just get ghosted by 90% of your network because you're a taker. Like, right. Where were you? Especially the people that go, but I kind of naturally do this. Or they're like, oh, I didn't know that I would need this. Now you know. You know. And if you find out the hard way, I mean, I feel bad for you, son, but... Oh, God, I'm so tempted not to do it. Okay, I'm not going to do the Jay-Z thing. I feel bad for you if you don't create a network.
Yep.
I just can't resist. I got 99 problems, but my network ain't one, right? Like, you have to dig the well before you get thirsty. And if you don't, it is on you. And you don't want to get surprised by this. I know a lot of people that think they have a great network, and then when they go to reach out to people, because I've like forced them to do layoff lifelines, they're like, oh my God, I thought I had such a cool, active, vibrant network, but it turns out all of these people I thought who were going to have my back in this dumb Facebook group or like my LinkedIn tribe or what, nobody cared. Nobody came and stepped up. And it's like your relationships are weak. And the way you find that out is by going to maintain them and shore them up and finding out where people stand. I know a lot of people that do Connect 4 and the layoff lifelines, and they go, oh man, I'm only getting like a 40% response rate. And I'm like, yeah, that's normal. You've neglected this network for 8 years. You want people to jump through the phone and say, let's go out and have lunch? They don't know you anymore, man. These are not people who are going to have your back. You're lucky you found out now, not when you realize you're going to lose your house and you need a job in the next 90 days. You know, like you got to find out now the strength of your network. Take the temperature now.
Yeah, absolutely. It's some of the best investments that you can make, like what we're just talking about, the social capital and your relationship capital. One of the things that you said to a lot of folks, the ROI, all the stuff that's worth investing and putting in a lot of energy takes a long time, and it's infinite. You know, I just think of the podcast too, where a lot of folks, because it's, you know, everybody's got a podcast now. Like it. Mm-hmm. You do this for like 4+ years and you try to be consistent. You know, there's no exact correlation to, oh, these are the numbers to this, to that, to this. But it's like over 4 years, you look back at it and you go, oh my goodness, this has been an amazing journey to be on. The relationship and a social capital is exactly the same thing, right?
It is. Yeah, indeed it is. And you want to keep building up that referral currency. What you don't want to do is build it up a little and then go, oh, you know, I'm done. I got my network set. This is an ongoing maintenance, right? You're keeping the plate spinning with each of these people. So the second you stop talking, and it's not exhausting, it sounds exhausting, but bear in mind, when I say like you're keeping the plate spinning, there are people that I send a text to or an email to every 6 months, and they're like, Jordan, good to hear from you. You know, I've since moved from California to Austin, Texas. You must love paying taxes over there in California. LOL, here's a picture of my dog. Like, that's it. And I reply, oh, don't I love it? Taxes are my favorite hobby. Here's a picture of my kid. I'm building a house next door. I'm not going anywhere anytime soon. You know, like, that's it. I don't have to like go to lunch with them and then like show up at their daughter's wedding. Like, I'm not doing any of that, and they don't expect me to. Everyone is busy, and that's good because that means you're not going to get 7,000 invitations that you have to turn down. Are there going to be people that say things like, let's go get lunch? Yeah, there's going to be some of that. And you might have to say, look, I'm really slammed, but it was good catching up with you, something like that. You know, everyone has their own sort of boundaries.
Investors, don't sleep on this market and trends. Did you know that in many cities across the U.S., renters now outnumber owners? And demand will only increase. More and more will be renting in droves, and it's putting the squeeze on a tight rental market. Four Peaks Capital Partners has been successfully investing in this proven, recession-resistant sector for years, providing investors with passive income and capital appreciation. Protect your portfolio and invest in private real estate funds because the demand for affordable housing will only increase. Invest with Four Peaks and let us do all the work. Find out more by calling 8775-INCOME. That's 8775-INCOME. Or visit privateincomeinvesting.com. That's privateincomeinvesting.com.
But to then throw this whole thing out, which a lot of people do, it's the biggest mistake I see. It's like being offered insurance that's free. Well, it costs you your time, but it's the most amazing insurance ever because these are all people that will have your back. And all you have to do is invest 5-10 minutes a day. And people go, nah, I don't have time. Okay, cool. But I noticed that you sure as hell post a lot on Instagram. How much time is that taking? Or, yeah, you know, I noticed you don't have time, but you're caught up on your YouTube or your Instagram TV, or you're like all up in the influencer comments. You're just spending your time differently. You're just poor at prioritizing because you don't understand the value of a network. Most people don't find out the value of their network until they don't have a network and they go, oh, shoot, I need it right now. And, you know, that's what we talked about before. Those are the people in my inbox saying, what do? I didn't bother to dig the well before I got thirsty, and now I'm out of my ass. How do I accelerate the process? And the answer is you start you start 5 years ago.
Yep.
And those people's potential is severely limited. If I'm a higher ranking officer in a company and I'm looking for someone to promote, am I going to promote the person that's done decently well on some projects, but that I'm not really connected to? Or am I going to promote the person where they might have their shortcomings, but, we work well together, and, MC says they're a good person and they work together all the time, and they showed up to that event we had, and then they organized that other thing and they invited us. That's a go-getter right there. I'm going to promote that person. And I can't tell you, when I used to run workshops and things like that for the public, there'd be somebody there inevitably every single week when I ran one of these, and they'd be like, let's say they worked at Amazon, and they were like, I came here because I'm doing well financially, I'm doing well in my career, but the guy I hired 4 years ago is my boss now. And I asked my manager why, and the answer was that he just worked on a lot more different projects and they gave him a lot more different opportunities, and this was one of them, and he got promoted over me. And I don't really understand how that happened. And usually they say, oh, and he's just such a schmoozer. He's just always networking. He knows everyone. Okay. Or they go, oh, it's all about who you know. It's not what you know anymore. And I'm like, good. That is an unfair advantage that you should have for yourself. Don't be like putting stank on it and whining to me about how other people have an unfair advantage. Build the unfair advantage for yourself. Network yourself, create relationships. You're not taking opportunity away from somebody else that deserves it more. You're making sure that you deserve it more by having a better connection with the people that are decision makers. That's how this works. So if you see that as unfair, then fine, but I strongly encourage you to take that unfair advantage for yourself instead of just whining about how other people have it.
Absolutely. Now, Jordan, a habit I've observed from very wealthy and successful people is that they're always studying and learning things. What are you currently studying and learning?
I study Mandarin Chinese. So I've got that. I've been doing that for 8 years or something like that now. I take voice lessons every morning.
Yep.
Which is great because I use my voice all day long. So I always have to warm up, and I'm working on getting rid of my regional Michigan accent. For those of you that maybe hear that sometimes, it comes out with certain words that I don't even notice anymore. And what else? My gosh. I'm always working on some element of the business. Right now, I'm studying like ads and media buys. I'm doing some strategy that literally nobody else has done for podcast growth. So I'm working on that kind of thing. I mean, I've always got at least 2 or 3 teachers / coaches for various things. So voice, Chinese, whatever. And then I've got things that I self-study to a certain level. Usually I get a coach first to teach me fundamentals, because everybody does this backwards. I've noticed. Not everybody. A lot of people do this backwards. I've noticed. They will like go, oh yeah, I want to get a handle on this. So I'm going to start by self-studying, and then I'm going to get a coach. And it's like, no, any good coach will tell you this. Get a coach first, because if you imagine I try to learn tennis and I just go, yeah, I just whack the ball with this racket. There's probably, okay, well, is there a right way to whack the ball with the racket or a bad way? Do I want to practice for 100 hours whacking the ball any possible way that I feel like? Or do I want someone to show me the proper way to do it and just give me a couple hours of instruction, then practice the correct habit for 100 hours and then keep going on with the coaching? So I notice people do this backwards, and it's kind of surprising, but it's also not, because I also understand that a lot of autodidacts or people who are self-starters, they're like, I can start this on my own. I can learn this. I don't need to waste money hiring someone to teach me this. You need coaches at every level, but mostly in the beginning and then at the extreme levels of the top, right? Like that's what you see. I'm always amazed by this. You see people that are like, I'm pretty good at this. I don't need anybody to tell me. And I'm like, dude, didn't Tiger Woods have like 7 freaking coaches? He's got like a swing coach, and he's got a strength coach, and he's got an endurance coach. And there's a coach that teaches him like strategy of how to play each golf course. And then, it's like the guy is the top of the top of the top, or was at the time. And he's got at least 4 or 5 coaches that we know about. That's what we know about. He's probably got secret weapons that he doesn't talk about in public or that don't show up or that don't advertise, right? It's just unbelievable. So what I've noticed about top performers and the ones that come on the Jordan Harbinger show is they always have coaches around them, and they're never arrogant enough to think they can learn anything all by themselves. I'm not sure how I got on that tangent, but I study a lot of things, but I always make sure I've got a coach, because if you value your time, you don't want to spend 3 hours or 10 hours learning something you could do in 1 hour with a coach, and you don't want to learn bad habits, because if you learn bad habits, now you've got to hire a coach to unlearn those bad habits and then reteach you the fundamentals. What a waste of time that is.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, one of the, to your point, you look at these top performers, and you mentioned Tiger Woods, like the Michael Jordans, which great documentary, by the way. But if there's an emergency button to hit, who's the person that he gets in touch with? He's coaches. One of his coaches, Tim Grover, of course, which a lot of folks know. He was involved with Kobe as well. But that's the guy that, if there's the panic button, that's the guy they get to, and that's just one of the guys on their team. So it's really, really powerful stuff, having certain folks in your corner for each part of what you're looking to accomplish. Now, a core message in our show is to leave our families, communities, and the world better than we found it by passing down a mindset, values, and principles to future generations, not just money. So if you cannot pass on any money to future generations, and we're only allowed to pass on 3 principles to them to build wealth and achieve happiness and success, what would they be?
I would definitely pass along the networking knowledge that I shared with you and more, that you always go further with your team and with your network than you do on your own. I mean, I don't even have to oversell that. I think we already kind of handled that. The other thing that I would teach is you need to gain a diversity of experiences. I was just talking about this with Ray Dalio this morning, actually, and that's going to be coming out on the Jordan Harbinger show. Do you know who Ray Dalio is? Investor, author of the book Principles.
I was just going to say, tie nicely.
Yeah, has $18.9 billion or something in personal net worth. Like, not bad. So him and I were talking about how he sent his son abroad to study in China in, I think, the 80s or the 90s or something like that, and how that teaches him how to think from a different angle. I'm all about that too. I lived in the former East Germany. I've lived in Mexico, Panama, Ukraine, things like that. So I'm always trying to get diversity of perspective, and you can't really oversell that. Like, there's so much value. There are so many times that I think of something and I go, yeah, but that's so simple that somebody else must have already thought about it, or it's a crappy idea. And then I'll run it by a lot of really smart people, and they're like, wow, that's really subtly simple and easy and brilliant, and like, let's try this, let's build a business on this or whatever. And I'm not trying to say that I come up with brilliant ideas, usually far from it. Usually I think my ideas are pretty mundane. But since I have such a diversity of background and experiences, and since I have the network, I can take these weirdo ideas that come to me as a result of, well, when I was in China, I saw this. Maybe we should do a business that does that, but involves China. And it's like, oh, that's stupid. Everyone's probably thought of that. But then I can bring it to my network and validate the idea. And I've built businesses based on this. And that's important, because if you have the same types of experiences as everyone else, you can relate to them in a certain way, but you're going to think a lot like the consensus. And when it was Ray Dalio and I were talking about this, you have to bet against the consensus when you're investing, but you also often have to bet against the consensus when you're building a business. Like, I'm guessing when Travis Kalanick and his friends and partners at Uber were pitching the idea, I bet you they ran into resistance like, but there are taxis everywhere, and you just raise your hand and one comes to you and you can pay with credit card or cash. Why would we replace that system? Now, everyone's like, why do taxis still freaking exist? This is ridiculous. Why are those things? And it's been like 5 years, right? Or 6 years since Uber came into existence. So that idea was somehow so deceptively simple. And I guarantee you that he came up with that and didn't think, this is a brilliant idea. He came up with a little idea to do some ride sharing and then turned it into a world-changing idea. So I would pass along diversity of experience, diversity of thought, your network. And honestly, I think those are the 3 things that that you should pass along to somebody, regardless of whether or not you can pass along money. Even if, better yet, if you can give them $1 billion and all those ideas are going to be unstoppable. But if in the absence of the $1 billion inheritance or the 500 million or even the $100,000 inheritance, if we're giving them diddly squat, then at least they can come away with some solid principles. And those three are the ones I would pick.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate you sharing that. Jordan, where can folks follow you? Where can they find the show? Where can they stay in touch of all of, informed of all of the many projects that you're involved with?
Sure. The Jordan Harbinger Show, HARB as in boy, IN as in Nancy, GER. That's the Jordan Harbinger Show. Since you're listening to podcasts, check me out there, wherever you listen to your podcasts. And I'm at Jordan Harbinger on Twitter, Instagram. I welcome outreach and contact. So thank you very much for having me on, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed this and I've been a very big fan for a long time. So really appreciate you coming on the show and sharing your journey and knowledge and providing so much value for all of my listeners and viewers out there.
Of course, man. Thank you once again.
Awesome. This is another show of the Cashflow Ninja. You could check out all of our past episodes at cashflowninja.com. And until next time, my friends, live infinitely.
This presentation is for educational and informational purposes only. The information being presented and considered does not consider your particular financial objectives or situation, and it does not make personalized recommendations. This material is not intended to replace the advice of a qualified tax and legal advisor or other qualified professionals, and you should not use the information in place of a customized consultation with a licensed professional regarding your specific personal financial objectives, situation, and needs. We believe the information provided is reliable, but we do